It's time for
DodgerHeads.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Unplugged with Scotty G. It's great to have you in here. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. It's been a nice little break for us. It's been a nice little break for me, enjoying the offseason, enjoying the World Series. I'm still just kind of basking in all of that stuff here, but we've got stuff to talk about today. There's baseball news always churning. There's always stuff to kind of debate and comb through. And that's why I've got my good buddy, one of the best people we've got on, on DB, Bruce. It's great to have you in, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Scott. I'm happy to be on the show for the first time. We've been talking for a couple of weeks trying to figure out when I could get on here and make the schedules work. So I'm glad this was finally the noon that I could make.
Yeah, so it's if you all don't follow Bruce on social media, please do. He does terrific work, radio broadcasting stuff there with Long Beach, correct?
Yes, yep. Go
Long
Beach.
So Bruce is a dynamo, fantastic stuff. Charismatic guy. I appreciate the hell out of him. So yeah, and just the baseball mind that we've got here. I know the chat appreciates the hell out of you, so it's good to have you on a morning show. If you are listening during the show, after the fact, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Leave all of your comments down below. Let me know your thoughts during all of these things. I comb through everything. I read through it all. I'll make sure to get back to everybody I can. But Bruce, I know there's not much to debate and not much to dissect right now in the early part of the offseason. I know 40-man stuff, qualifying offer news broke, record number of players accepted the qualifying offer there. Is there been anything surprising to you this offseason so far, or is it pretty run-of-the-mill at this point?
Some of the qualifying offers that were taken were surprising to me. Like, I didn't expect Shota Imanaga to take his. I thought that the Cubs declining his option and potentially sending him to free agency was real interesting. I didn't know if the Dodgers were going to jump on that, but I just thought I didn't expect him to be hitting the market, and so to accept the qualifying offer is even more surprising. But otherwise, like you said, it's been fairly run-of-the-mill. The 40-man roster deadline to protect guys from the World 5 draft was yesterday, and that's always a big landmark in the offseason for prospect people like me. So I was interested to see what the Dodgers did, and they wound up protecting Ronan Kopp, and that's it. So I'm sure we'll get to that at some point today.
Yeah, so the current roster I think stands at 39. So some maneuverability has to be had, and so players are going to have to get pulled off there, depending on offseason moves and stuff like that, trades, what have you. That's all for another time. But from Bruce, for the now. Some early reports coming from Bob Nightingale. We had a story posted on Dodger Blue about Bob Nightingale reporting that, quote, speaking to the Dodgers, says they'll still be aggressive as anyone and will come away with at least one high price closer. And that's kind of where we're going to start today. We're going to start with the need for a back end guy. With the understanding, and a lot of people that I've spoken to, it's not the casual fan, but it's people seeing a guy like Roki Sasaki grow into a role like this at the back end, and how the Dodgers brass approached him kind of toward the end of the year and said, if you have an opportunity to contribute to this team this year, we need to have a need in the bullpen if you're open for it. And he took that role on and really grew into someone that Dave Roberts at I would say for the majority of the postseason, when he wasn't, running on fumes, he excelled in that role, and something he'd never done before. And when you do just all right in a role that you've never done before on the biggest stage, I think you're doing pretty damn good. So all with that in consideration, the reports that the Dodgers will come away with a big time back-end reliever, kind of speak to that for me, and what does that signal to you with where the Dodgers are headed this offseason?
Yeah, I think we all know that the bullpen was a train wreck last year. So I'm glad to see that there's a priority being put on spending money for a reliever. I always think like the Dodgers signed probably the two biggest name closers on the market last year, and Kirby Yates and Tanner Scott both kind of blew up in their faces. So you have to go into this with an understanding that there's no guarantees with closers, even these top guys that we're talking about, like Edwin Díaz and Devin Williams. There's never anything for sure, but that's why I'd rather have the Dodgers just go spend money on some of them. If you trade assets for a reliever, then when it blows up, it would feel a lot worse. But ultimately, the Dodgers have a lot of money, so I'm totally fine with them tossing a decently big contract to at least get the 90% chance that the guy remains a lockdown sort of closer.
Yeah, and kind of where I look at some of the names that are out there, Edwin Díaz is obviously going to be the biggest one for me. I look at a bullpen that the Mets currently have, and I say to myself, how the hell could they let him leave? So it's either the Dodgers outspend them, or the Dodgers find a way to just have to be that last minute option where Edwin says, you know what, I'm tired of this situation. I want to go, to a place they just won back to back and stuff like that. The initial reports about a week ago with the Dodgers having all this money freed up and so thinking that they could be in the sweepstakes for a big time reliever, another big time contract. Is that somewhere you think the Dodgers could go with the Tanner Scott contract already on their books, knowing that you have that and it did blow up in your face? Is there any stable option where you can say, we're going to hand another, bullpen reliever a, 15, 17 plus $1 million a year contract?
I don't think there's a stable option, but there's a scale of stable, most stable to least stable, and Edwin Díaz is near the top of that scale, all relative. So I think the Dodgers will certainly be looking at Díaz. It sounds like that the early indications are he wants another like 5-year, $100 million contract. That's
basically the same one.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. I don't know if the Dodgers will go that high. But the thing that I think is interesting about this is like we're talking about how Tanner Scott had such a bad year for the Dodgers. Obviously, he was not what they expected him to be. I still think they're going into next year with at least some sort of optimism that he'll be right back to the guy that he was before he came to LA, because that's just how relievers are. They fluctuate like that, and there's not a big enough sample size to really pour everything you have into 1 year. So I think when you're spending this money, it's not like that they're looking at the Tanner Scott contract and thinking that was a complete catastrophe that has no chance to right itself. He's still got 3 years with the Dodgers that he could turn it around. So they still can look at a reliever, and if they think the guy's good, like Edwin Díaz is good, like Devin Williams should be good, then I don't think you have to be as terrified as your gut would say to spend that money on those guys.
Yeah, and just overwhelming success from Edwin Díaz. He's just been a terrific arm from them, someone who's willing to take the ball for multiple innings. And I think that for me, you come to appreciate that more as a baseball fan, especially watching so much postseason stuff. You always have pause about the mileage on that arm, but it's just never been a concern with him. It's a concern. It's not a concern until it is. But with someone like Edwin Díaz, like you said, it's at when you're thinking at a scale of, most reliable to, the other side there, he's as reliable as it gets. He has been, as available as it comes for a reliever. He just had the thing with the knee a few years ago, and that's kind of been it. Edwin Díaz has been a superior talent. It's just, should the Dodgers go back into that? Look, with the caveat, chat, it's not our money. But always that the Dodgers are going to have kind of their own guidelines on where they will spend. And you've seen them, like you look at, say, the Tyler Glasnow deal. It wasn't a great thing until things all started to line up for him. And then he got healthy, and then he was able to take them out, and then you see him blossom. That's where stuff works out for a starting pitcher. But for a reliever, if you're just flat out not available, or the stuff just isn't working out, and you're just in a spiral, and you wind up like Tanner Scott, and he's in post-game presser saying, baseball hates me right now. That's just worst case scenario things. And that's when you just scratch it, look toward the offseason, and go from there. But when you're searching for stability, it's hard with relievers because just how the volatility of them. That's when I hear reports of a top end arm and the Dodgers wanting to dip that pen into that pool of this free agent class. I understand it. I get it. Is it the area that I would go? Only if it falls to them. because Bruce and I were speaking before the show that there's a lot of ways that the Dodgers can go, and I'll feel really comfortable about how this offseason could go. And whether it's my preferred option, which would be like the Devin Williams route, if they can fix Ryan Helsley's pitch tipping issues, that's another route I could see them go. But with the mutual interest with Devin Williams, Bruce, I think if they can get Devin Williams on, say, a 1-1, allow him to make top end closer money for 1 year and have an option for the next year to, say, hey, I'll sign with you on a shorter term thing. I have an offer somewhere else for maybe 3. But if there's a way that they can find a contract that will help him get paid year 1 with the option to get paid or go somewhere else year 2 to do that, I think Devin Williams for me has kind of been my number 1 guy.
Yeah, I agree with you that I think if that is the option, if you look at like 5 years for Edwin Díaz versus a 1+1 or something shorter term for Williams, I think there's a lot less risk to be had there. And it won't be that big of a drop off in terms of performance, because I have confidence that, as we're talking about Tanner Scott, I think Devin Williams is in the same boat. If he wasn't himself with the Yankees all year, they made some changes with his arsenal and made him a true 2-pitch guy, and it didn't really work. So I think that if he gets back in the lab with a different pitching organization like the Dodgers, they know what they're doing. I think he can be back to being good again. So I would be cool with Devin Williams. I would also be interested in Robert Suarez from the Padres. I saw somebody pointed out in the chat just a couple of minutes ago saying that he doesn't have a qualifying offer attached, and that is a helpful thing as well. And I just think Robert Suarez, he's had some demons against the Dodgers. So for us, having watched him pitch, there's been a lot of bad experiences, but against all the other teams in the league, he's been a dang good reliever for a while now. So I would be interested in him too.
Break him down. Like, if his arsenal off top, how he pitches, he's, very downhill guy, big time fastball, change up, it's electric stuff out of the hand. It explodes. He's a big dude. Kind of speak to Robert Suarez and fill everybody in. People watch him, but I don't think everybody really knows how exceptional he's been, because he came back. He wasn't in Major League Baseball. He started his Major League Baseball career, I think, when he turned 30 years old. So with Robert Suarez, he's someone that it's an intriguing piece. He's 34, so he'll be 35 when the year starts up here. So definitely an older arm, but without the miles in Major League Baseball. Why is Robert Suarez one of the most intriguing options out there?
Yeah, so first, since you're talking about the age, you're going to get him on a little bit of a shorter term deal than some of the other guys that we're talking about, probably a little bit less money. I think that he sort of doesn't have the name glamour, but has the ability to pitch to the same level of Devin Williams, maybe even Edwin Díaz if he's fully right. And you look at like his numbers over the last couple of years for the Padres, he's been really good. It's the fastball, the sinker, the changeup, and he's become their closer. 2.97 ERA this year, 2.77 last year. It's been a few years in a row now that he's been their lockdown 9th inning guy. And like I said, for us Dodger fans that have watched him pitch against the Dodgers, you get a much different taste in your mouth, but that's not enough that I'm willing to avoid him in free agency, because if the Dodgers sign him, then he won't have to face the Dodgers anymore, and then he can just bully everybody else in the league. So
and we know how they do that.
Yeah, it's high octane stuff. The fastball's at triple digits. The sinker's nice off of it. The changeup's good too. So he can get both handiness of batters out. And I think that if you don't go for that like upper echelon, he's like the 2B kind of option right behind there, Devin Williams. And I don't think that you're losing too much dropping down to that tier.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's someone that I don't think I'd consider as much, I think, just because of the age. But if you're able to get him on, I know Spot Track has him projected at like a 4-year deal. I'm really hard pressed for a team to give that a 4-year contract to a 2B 35-year-old. And just like you said, the high octane stuff, the ability to get both handedness out, I think that's vastly important. And chat asked me a lot leading up to it, leading up to the postseason, about the bullpen, and it directly made me think of it. It would make Dave Roberts' job a hell of a lot easier. I know he likes this organization, likes interchangeability at the closer spot, but it's just, we know how it is when there's one guy that you can say, I can bring them in, whether it's in the most high leverage. The Evan Phillips was that guy. He could be deployed anywhere when he was at the top of his game before he got injured and kind of took a step back and then got injured, But I think that Robert Suarez has done that a number of times with the Padres. I think Devin Williams at the peak of his game did that a number of times when he was with the Brewers, Yankees at the back end of the season for him and into the postseason. So I think there's a number of ways that they could go where it's guys who are either relatively easy to fix or someone who's plug and play. Edwin Díaz, high end. Robert Suarez, high end, but older arm, so you won't have to attach as many years. So again, Chad, there's a lot of ways that we feel good with the Dodgers going. It'd be someone completely out of the box. Ryan Helsley coming away as the one option would be someone, like I said, is intriguing, but it's someone who's had issues with pitch tipping, usage issues when he went to the Mets, stuff like that. His stuff has all looked the same, but I don't think that they can strike out. No pun intended here, Bruce, but I don't think they can do that unless they just go completely off the wall. I think there's just a few ways that I'd feel very, very, confident they could go with the bullpen.
Yeah, I think we're talking about some of these guys like Devin Williams and like Ryan Helsley that had down years last year, but still have the ceiling of, top 3 to 5 reliever in baseball sort of range. And that's kind of where I hope the Dodgers go. Sign a guy that if you get him right, he can be completely locked down, because we experienced last year how it feels to have a terrible bullpen, especially heading into the playoffs, and how tough that is to win that way. And I really historically have not been the kind of guy that wants the Dodgers to go out and spend money or spend assets on relievers just because it feels so volatile. But last year scared me straight. And now I want them to go get a guy that if they get him right, they can have that back end option. And even if they don't, then you just hope that Tanner Scott can become that again. There's a couple different avenues to get back to where your bullpen isn't as bad as it was last year, where it felt like every single thing that could have gone wrong went wrong. And getting one of these guys that the Dodgers have historically been able to get back to the top of their games, I think will really help the outlook for next year.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, we're not lost on me that, Pete Fairbanks is an option for sure. He's someone that is out there, has the ties to Tampa with Andrew Friedman, and just the mutual interest seemingly between the both of them. That's an avenue they could go as well. His stuff is kind of tapered off, I think, in this past year. If they can get back into that, then Pete Fairbanks has definitely, done very good things with the Tampa Bay Rays in the closer spot there. So he is an option. Ryan Helsley, like I've been saying, the stuff is very good, so he is an option as well. I know who I think Matt Moreno made the graphic for us and added Kenley Jansen into the mix. That's someone who at this stage of his career, I do not thank you, Kenley Jansen, but it's not someone that I've got I would say in the top 6, 7 of my radar here for the bullpen.
I want Kenley to go and pitch somewhere where he can continue to farm saves and continue to build the Hall of Fame case.
Correct.
That's not okay.
And then sign the one day at the very end, and then we'll hang it up, and then we will rejoice collectively on here with the chat. Bruce, you'll join us, and we'll all be on here. Yeah. Man, I mean, yeah, I think that with the money that they have, it's easy to say just go pay the top dollar guy, but fans always want to do that. They see the Dodgers, all the money they make, yada, yada. But it's just about having some level of restraint. And the bullpen is a place where they definitely have to have the most. They have to put as much thought into that as possible. But with all the names, chat, the Dodgers will get those guys in here and find a way to bring the best out of them. Tanner Scott is someone that blew up in their face, but I think at this crop of bullpen arms, I think there's a lot of ways that they could go that I feel really good about. And I don't think they can, I mean, somebody can clip this, but I don't know how much they can screw it up if they just make a very, if it's a buy low, if it's just market price there's arms out there that feel like stable options there that have good track records and ways that they can fix and get somebody at the back end. So I'm pretty confident, everybody. And that's kind of what this chat always wants. They want to feel good, Bruce. They want me to reassure them. They always say, Scott, you're being too negative with stuff. You're being too negative with stuff. And then I told them after game 6, I said, if they win game 6, we'll be back here for game 7. And there we go. And then what happened? So I had to end the year on positivity. Jeff rejoices. So
no Debbie Downer at noon on a Wednesday.
How can I do that? I owe them too much. They were here for me. The tier 1s were here for me on Unplugged early on, and they've been riding. It's been great. And then JY right here. Scott is the therapist. Yeah, that's how it goes. I'm here with everybody. Real quick, we got a super chat from Robert. He says, at what point do the Dodgers tap into their young arms? Why spend when you have talent like Kyle Hurt and Ronan Kopp? So what do you think on this?
Yeah, this is where you spend at the top and get some proven guys, and then Kyle Hurt and Ronan Kopp will be the ones that step in as the season goes on, and inevitably injuries happen. Inevitably, some guys don't perform like you hope they will. Like it needs to be a full by committee effort, and so you get the guys that you have a little bit more faith in the track record at the top, and then Hurt and Kopp will be good depth. Kopp, I don't know if he's as immediately ready to help in the big leagues. I kind of see Kopp as more of a future asset. Like I think he'll have to start in AAA and continue to work on the strike throwing. It's not going to be like a Jack Dreyer situation where it's a lefty reliever who gets added and then is immediately on the 26-man the whole year. But Kyle Hurt, I think, if he has a good offseason, could be on the 26 to open the season for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the current options out there. And Alex Vesia, I'm very happy they picked up his option there. It felt like a no-brainer. There is going to be a logjam in that bullpen. Some guys moved off of that slot. So before we go into this next thing here, Fangraphs currently has them at Tanner Scott, Alex Vesia, Blake Trine, and Anthony Bonda, Brusdar Graterol, Jack Dreyer, Will Klein, and Benny Caps at the back end, Ben Kasparius. Who of that group, stands out to you as someone that could be moved out of there?
I don't know, because I think that you go into spring training and you assume that not all those guys will be healthy. And if they all are by some miracle, then you can look at the bottom of that list and say that, Ben Kasparius ended the year in AAA. Not that they have to do that again. Will Klein maybe still has an option left. And then it just becomes the roster game. If Edgardo Enriquez has to be in there, Justin Wroblewski has to be in the mix somehow. Yeah. And so all the young guys will be, it's going to be a mix of options. It's going to be a mix of performance of who gets to stay up, who goes down, and everybody will get their innings at some point.
Yeah. So currently with option stuff, Ben Kasparius has 2 options. Will Klein has 1. Jack Dreyer has 3. So he feels like a guy that if they need to, give a blow in AAA there, that could happen. But aside from that, Tanner Scott does not. Vesia does not. Trinan, no. Bonda, no. Graterol, no. So it's a bullpen. It is older. They do have an older bullpen there. It feels like they need, they have a little bit of a youth influx. And it's those guys that I just listed at the end, Dreyer, Klein, and Kasparius. Players who could be optioned down. They will find some room and they will find a way to get everybody their innings. It's going to be based on performance. And I think a lot of that's going to be the case. And they have a lot of these arms, just like Robert mentioned, Kyle Hurt, Ronan Kopp, River Ryan coming back, Evan Phillips. So I think that there's just enough. They'll find a way to make this work. Again, I said this prior to the postseason, they'll find a way to get enough. And if they don't, they'll figure it out again. It just seems like they always do. Where do you land on that?
Yeah, I think the good thing is when you read through that list, it doesn't sound bad even now before they go and get somebody else at the top of that bullpen. Just the names don't sound like that it's going to be nearly as bad as last year. And so I think that, like I said already on the show, like last year felt like everything that could have gone wrong in the bullpen went south. And that's not going to happen again. I can place my faith in that. And a lot of those guys are going to get better near the bottom. Like I think Jack Dreyer already had a fantastic rookie year, and I expect the same from him. Ben Kasparius, I think, has all the stuff to really take a leap. Will Klein obviously had his coming out party in the World Series, and he's got great stuff. So there's a lot of potential in that bullpen already. And then if they add to the group, then we're talking about it could go from like one of the worst bullpens in baseball all the way up to one of the best, just from guys performing a little closer to how they're expected to perform.
Yeah, definitely. Real quick, JY puts us in here, and all Dodge. This is Clint Pacias' show, so shout out to Clint. Appreciate you, man. JY asks, it was mentioned that there are 25, he says, pitchers on the 40-man roster. That's a lot, right? How does that compare to other teams? I'm not sure, JY. I don't know how that compares to other teams. I do know the Dodgers just usually always have a gluttony of pitching, and they maneuver themselves that way, and they don't have platoon stuff. They don't have many platoon guys on the 25-man roster there, or the major league roster. So they kind of lock themselves into that. They like having maneuverability with their arms. That's just how they've liked it for several years now. Anything to add to that, Bruce?
Yeah, I think the big thing is for the Dodgers, and I think a lot of teams do it this way. Once you get into the regular season, they're barely going to have position players on the 40-man roster in the minor leagues. Like there might be a couple, And that's going to be it, because the pitching is where guys are constantly getting brought up and sent down based on usage, based on injuries. The pitching is where you really need the depth. And then if a position player gets hurt or something like that, you can always add a new guy to the roster or go to a trade or sign somebody and claim somebody off waivers, whatever. That's a lot more replaceable. But the pitching, they know they will need as many guys as possible. So that's usually where they spend a lot of the extra spots.
Yeah, absolutely. Timmy says W. Clint. Yeah, absolutely. W. Clint. Appreciate that, dude, always. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty run-of-the-mill stuff on that end. I think that I feel the Dodgers are in a good spot. You look around Major League Baseball, people are always hunting the young arms, the up-and-coming flashy guy, but the Dodgers have thrived for several years on having these, comfortable options, the consistent performers, and that's tough to find. This was an incredibly outlier year for them, and that's why it made me feel so uncomfortable going into the postseason and basically throughout the regular season, that the bullpen just, and sure for fans as well, you as well, Bruce, it's when you come to watch a team that has so much consistent success, and the one thing that has been the go-to, which is the bullpen, the interchangeability there for Doc and Dave to go out there and to be able to plug someone in, especially seeing 2024 postseason run. Everybody was on their game, and then they just had a complete letdown across the board, just down performance, fatigue, some usage issues there, what it may be, but that's an area that I think the front office, again, just like how they attacked starting pitching, I think they're going to make a real big effort to make sure that type of thing doesn't happen. I really give the Dodgers a lot of damn credit, even with all the resources that they have. If they have an area that's a leaky part of the ship, they're going to do their damnedest to fix that spot. They don't just let it try to figure itself out. They'll attack it pretty damn hard.
Yeah, and that's where they have this opportunity in the offseason to go and get the relief help that they want, so that we're not in a position again in July where the Dodgers have to try and go to the trade deadline and see what they can get. And then when they inevitably don't want to overpay, then everybody gets mad like they did last year. And like Andrew Friedman talked about with starting pitching, the reason the Dodgers didn't have to go and trade for a starter is because they did it already. So they're going to try and do the same thing with the bullpen now.
Yeah. All right, Bruce, this is it, man. The biggest need for the team, given their current roster, is...
Yeah, if I'm going to choose one thing, I'm choosing a corner outfielder. I want to see one more bat in the lineup.
Do you have a short list of that? And I know it's been talked about on this channel a bit and on Twitter a considerable amount. Do you have a short list? No order, and you can take this however you want. You don't have to sell me on anyone. If you want one or two to sell me on, be my guest. But whoever Bruce is the top of your mind there, I want to know. The chat wants to know.
Yeah, so obviously Kyle Tucker is the big name on the market. I don't really see that as a super likely thing because the Dodgers aren't going to give him 10 years. And I think he winds up signing for one of those mega deals. Whenever we talk about these big free agents the Dodgers are going to give the short-term huge money to, they never actually take it. So Kyle Tucker would be great, but I'm not super optimistic there. And it's an interesting market to look at past that. There's obviously Cody Bellinger is on the free agent market that a lot of people want to return. I think that's going to be hugely dependent on what kind of money that he gets. If the Dodgers are even interested there, they could go to the trade market for a guy like Steven Kwan. They also have the flexibility of they could look in the infield at second base and maybe get somebody there and move Tommy Edman back to the outfield, hopefully with his ankle being a little better. There's a lot of ways that they could take it. I just think they need to find one more bat. Even if it's like Byron Buxton could be available. I think that's the number one guy. If he truly is on the market for me, I would love to see them go after Byron Buxton and try to just keep him on the field. And if they can do that, then he would be an amazing ad. So I think if there's one guy that I could choose to go get, it would be Buxton. But there's a lot of options. None of them really like blow me away in terms of like there's no perfect option. Just because Kyle Tucker is going to get so much money. Otherwise, he would be the guy. But yeah, there's a lot of ways that they could approach fixing the hole, but getting one more big bat to shore up the outfield or to shore up second base and then push everybody to the outfield, I think would really help this lineup look a lot better.
Yeah. And Craig, what's up, buddy? It's good to see everybody in chat again. To the tier ones, tier twos, thank you all for being here. I got Bruce on with me. This has been a really great episode so far. If you're listening later on, please, rewind this, start this thing over. It's been a terrific talk so far. Alfonso, it's good to see you in here, man. Hey, it's good to see you in here. BC, everybody. Here we go. I'm going to Alfonso, I'm gonna put this up here real quick, but the back end, the Conforto thing. Let's see. It says so people don't want Kyle Tucker because it's too much money, and don't want Bellinger because we need to get younger. So maybe these people want Conforto back. Hey, we can break this down because Kyle Tucker, I've said that it's not my money with Kyle Tucker. I've said that. I went on Dodgers territory last week and was talking about how I don't, Eno Saris had a segment where he said that Kyle Tucker doesn't do anything like elite, like no superstar one thing, but he does everything really good. Everything's really great. Separate the big, like elite from really great. And you ask yourself, is that a 10-400 guy, 10-year, $400 million guy? Is that someone that you want to hand that to? Possibly for the right franchise, but is that a guy that the Dodgers are going to hand that money to? Reports already saying they're looking at short-term high AAV, which is something they offered Bryce Harper, which I really damn wish he took, because I'm a huge Bryce Harper guy. Like, played against him when I was like a kid, like was at his debut game in Dodger Stadium. It was just incredible stuff. So if they're able to snag him, that's obviously the 1A guy. But the next tier after that, the reunion of Cody Bellinger, I tweeted out, bring Cody Bellinger back. I look at it on a couple different fronts. That Cody Bellinger is, sure, 30 years old, still in the prime of his career, leaves the Dodgers, goes to the Cubs, goes to the Yankees. For me, he did everything necessary to earn that multi-year good money contract. Natural outfielder, just smooth operator in the outfielder, can slide to first base when Freddie Freeman's all done with, So there's a lot of ways that they could go with that. It's just the people that have reasons for not wanting Kyle Tucker, not wanting Cody Bellinger. What would satisfy some of these fans? I think they're just like I was last week. They're looking for a stable option. And that's something that I've confirmed, that the Dodgers are searching for. They want a stable option, someone with this consistent performance that they can bank on. And I'm thinking, just like you, Kyle Tucker's the number one. If Cody Bellinger, and the Boris there, they want to come back to LA, they should try to make that happen. But if not, the trade route is the way that I think with their current prospect system. That's the way with those arbitration years with Duran, with Buxton having a few years left under contract here, and with Stephen Kwan. That's the way that they also can go. So another multi-option piece to this team that they can go, and I feel comfortable.
I think it's tough to look at the outfield market right now because there are a lot of options and none of them are perfect. Like, I will absolutely admit that going to the trade market and trading for Buxton with his injury history is certainly a bit of a risk. I like that one a little better because I feel confident in the performance. For Kwan and Duran, I feel like they're going to be on the field, but I'm not exactly sure what they'll give. Stephen Kwan had a certain down year, and there's some tools that are trending down that you don't love to then give up a huge price for that. And then for Jarren Duran, the Red Sox are pushing him out of town, and that's not something that you usually want to swoop in and pay a premium for a guy that's getting run out of his previous place. So none of the options are perfect, but I think the Dodgers have to find a way to address the corner outfield because last year it was rough. And so getting somebody to add that one extra bat to add depth to the lineup, or even adding a big guy like Kyle Tucker, I agree with you that I don't think that Tucker's the guy that you give $400 million to, because I think they want to save that extra mega contract on the books for one of the younger, like, superstar starters. If it's Skubal, if it's Skeens down the road, if it's a shortstop like Gunnar Henderson or Ellie De La Cruz, like I think they want to save that contract for a more premium position. But if they could get Tucker on give him 4 years, $250 million or something crazy, and I would be super all over that if that was something he was interested in.
Yeah, I said the first I've hinted at the notion that I've had some really good information, someone I trust, that has hinted off to me that Kyle Tucker and the Dodgers were a thing, long for over a year now. And with the Kyle Tucker stuff, it's that I'm all in for adding as many arms. I'm with Dave that, let's ruin baseball. That's something that I've been all about. This is more on the teams that are unwilling to spend the money and more about teams that are willing to dip in this pool and, give these players what they're rightfully earned on the free agent open market. This is the way that they can and should do it. Teams should want to bring in top tier talent no matter what it costs. This is the way that the Dodgers should go if he's available to them. It's the next tier where you get a little bit dicey. I'm speaking more towards the Cody Bellinger stuff. Let's get it clear. Tucker's the 1A, no matter what. I don't think anybody will dispute that. But when you get into that next part, it's that, okay, now you've got to look at if you're bringing in somebody else that's not that top end, then you look into, say, Cody Bellinger. You look into the options where now you're fixing perhaps a platoon role bat with Jarren Duran. Steven Kwan is just, more so they're going to plug and play him and go from there. But if it's another way, do they bring in a Yastrzemski? Do they bring in a Duran who's going to fill your need against right-handed pitching? And then Alex Call subs in against left-handed arms there. So they've got the pieces to make a fallback option work. Just like we said right prior to the show, Bruce, that red alert button would be they whiff on all that. And we head into opening day with not Dalton Rushing being the option in left field. It's Ryan Ward. And that would be the very, very fallback piece.
Yeah, that's why they added him to the 40-man roster, is at least they've got that ultimate, if nothing else goes right, then they have him. And it sounds like the organization has, at least in what they're saying, some level of confidence in Ward to be a platoon guy in left field and not be the end of the world. I just hope they aim higher because first, the defense would be in the same exact place that it was with Conforto and Teoscar in the corners last year, which was hard to watch for 162 already. I don't want to go through that again. And then they get a guy that has the proven bat in the big leagues.
Yeah, they can do these things. They will fill these roles, won't they? Yeah, and that's the way that I feel as well. And I'm always trying to get something candid out of you, Bruce, because you're so media trained. You got to stop doing this. I come from the same mold, same broadcast stuff with you, so I appreciate the hell out of you, man. You're locked in. You're as good as it gets. So I appreciate you always being on. Rosemary says Jeff had a good argument against Belly about his numbers outside of Yankee Stadium last night. I can have this. Home and road splits are a year-to-year trend. I had a conversation, I think TQT, man, on Twitter about this. Home and road splits are all dependent year to year. If you're asking me about a left-handed hitter in Yankee Stadium, I'm glad he exploited that stadium and went loco there and allowed them and, helped them win a ton of ball games in Yankee Stadium. But Rosemary, if you look at in 2023 and 2024, when he was playing in Wrigley, those home and road splits were different year to year. So that's kind of a year to year trend. I'm not going to, he doesn't have drastic things on a home road split throughout someone's career. Stuff all changes if they play for different teams. And Bellinger's played for, 4 different teams now. And I'm sure if you look back year to year, home road splits are always different. And I'm not going to shy away from Cody Bellinger if for the right money, for the right fit, based on 1 year in a stadium where he should go crazy and try to, ball out in Yankee Stadium.
I think that Bellinger is a tough one to approach because there are a lot of reasons to be very wary of. First, I think that it's never a thing that you can really fully quantify of the way that he left LA. Those last couple of years were really rough, and then really bad. You can't put that into a number and know what it's going to mean coming back and having to take in all those emotions that he left with. And then also there were, his advanced metrics even these last couple of years where he's been better. He's not really hitting the ball hard. He's become a completely different player from who he was in LA. In LA, he was a swing hard, launch, exit velocity, all those things. Now he's a contact guy, and he still can hit home runs, but it's not like that he's trying to elevate and celebrate all the time. And he's completely changed around the kind of player that he is. And yet he now is the kind of player that on a year-to-year basis could have a big downgrade if he's not in the exact right situation. So I don't think Bellinger is he's not in my, top 2 of options. I hope they find a different option, but they're, if they wound up having to fall back to that, I'd rather them get Bellinger than just roll with the guys they already have.
Great points. Yeah, Bruce. Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate you. Great insight, everybody. Chat, thank you so much. Let's see. I'm going to take 2 questions, and then we're going to get out of here for today. Busy day for Bruce and I outside of this, but we wanted to make sure we hopped in here. Yeah, Bruce, I agree with everything. And the thing that I will do real time, buddy, I have revelations. I'll sit here and listen to everything someone's saying and change an opinion on the fly. And I'm good with that. And that's how I think it should be. That's how conversations should go. So Bruce spitting the knowledge. BC says this. Yeah, Bruce is smart, man. Bruce always cooking. So you might have a regular spot here on Unplugged. You're changing the way that I think about, this offseason in the game. So everybody, all caps question. I'm going to take a few and then we're going to get out of here. But just like you said, my number one slot is going to be the outfield. They need to do that. They need to shore that up. It's an area that for years now, when the Dodgers had a platoon, say in one corner slot, center field, however it went, they had a complement to one another. They didn't have any of that. It's just the bench was 2024 when nobody knew what you were going to get from the bench. And that was just a spot that was uncomfortable. Teo had the coming out party there. But last year it was 2025. Michael Conforto, Teoscar Hernandez, down performance. Andy Paez played his ass off. That's something that was an unsung thing. And it's unfortunate for me that he had such a tough postseason that his regular season was just lost in the mix because he was amazing. That's someone where did it change my perception on him? Maybe a little bit. It's hard to wash yourself of a postseason that's maybe perhaps the worst of all time, but I'm not going to forget about what he did and carried some spots the regular season, but they do need to find a corner guy. They do need to shore up that left field spot as long as Teoscar Hernandez is in right field. So it's just the outfield for me. They need to attack that pretty aggressively. I know Nightingale tweeted that the Dodgers are going to be aggressive on the bullpen. They can do that, but they need to be at the top end of the left field, outfield market and find a way to make something work here. So that's kind of where I'm at, Bruce. I don't have any other way of thinking of it. I know second base, there's been some rumors about Brandon Lau, but I've got my stuff squarely, I'm circling outfield as the number one thing for me.
I think you bring up a good point about Paez. There's a lot of Dodger fans that have a bad taste in their mouth about him right now, but he had a dang good year and he's only going to get better. And the thing with Paez is he's got all the talent. That part's clear. He's just an approach adjustment away, an improvement of his approach from being a really good everyday outfielder forever and literally just stop chasing so much. And that's going to turn him around in a hurry. So I think that's the kind of approach change that you can bank on, that it'll be made. I don't think the Dodgers are going into this offseason with any real doubt about Andy Paez being an opening day outfielder for them. And he's going to be an everyday guy next year. And they're completely thrilled with that.
He had a 4.1 F-WAR, man. It's just, that's incredible performance. That's so good. I just, if he can bump up his walk rate just a little bit, diagnose what the hell happened in the postseason. I think at that point, Bruce, I think honestly past the first series, a lot of it becomes mental and then it bleeds into mechanical. And that's what happens. Everybody forgets about that stuff. And this can make me sound much older, but the older you get, the more you understand that, the mental side of the game matters so much. And I think that's something that with Andy Paez, it snowballed. So, we'll keep an eye on that here. Vinny asks, based on the possible return and projections for the future, who would you rather trade, Paez or Rushing? Honestly, I would say it's Dalton Rushing, unfortunately, because I have so much hope for what he can do offensively. I love his profile at the plate. He's just limited sample there, but with Will Smith at the front end, I think the return for Paez might be higher based on having an outfielder that's done it, but just my opinion of it would be Dalton Rushing based on current roster needs.
Yeah, Paez, I think, would for sure get a bigger return on the trade market, but I would also say Rushing because Paez is the Dodgers center fielder of the future. He's become really, really good in center field, and he's a huge piece for this team moving forward into the future to build the roster around. Dalton Rushing hasn't established himself that way. Will Smith is still behind the dish, and Rushing's clock is ticking in terms of he's a big leaguer now. And holding on to him for 3 more years before he gets a chance to actually play consistently is unfortunate for him, and just in terms of using your value and assets in an ideal way. So, I'd say Rushing here.
Yeah, David, last one here. He says, do you think they're giving up on Kim because another option if Tommy is good is Edmund center field, Teo left field, Paez right, Kim second base? and the fact they haven't said it's very possible Fields they are out on Kim. I disagree with this for the reason that Tommy Edmonds' ankle, the timeline on him is incredibly TBD. They're going to give him as much time, perhaps half a season, to get himself right. So Ha-Seong Kim has a runway at second base. Whether they give that to him, that remains to be seen. If it's him, Alex Freeland, there's a couple different ways they can go, but I don't believe they're giving up on Ha-Seong Kim at all this early.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any giving up on Kim. I think that he's going to be valuable next year and moving forward, at least as a bench piece. And we've noticed over these last couple of years, there's been a lot of moments where the Dodger bench feels really weak. And as he develops and becomes a little bit better at the plate than he was to end this year, I think that he could be really a valuable guy that can pinch run off the bench, can play good defense up the middle, or eventually could hopefully be a more reliable guy against right-handed pitching. I don't think that he's the kind of player, though, that they wouldn't go into the offseason and think that he's going to, hopefully start 150 games, nothing like that. That he needs to develop more for that. And I don't know if he's going to get to that point. That's not why they signed him. He was signed, the contract he got bringing over is to be that sort of depth guy that they plug in when injuries happen, or has very valuable traits off the bench if everybody's healthy.
Right on. Appreciate it, Bruce. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Appreciate you tuning in to DodgerHeads Unplugged. Big thank you to Bruce Kuntz. You have a great rest of your day, man. You are a dynamo, a wealth of baseball knowledge, man. And I just appreciate you so much for coming on. It's always great conversation with you. Hopefully get you on soon.
Yeah, appreciate you, Scott. I'm glad that I finally got on here. Thanks to everybody for tuning in, and let's do it again soon for sure.
Yeah. Everybody, again, my name is Scott Geirman. Thank you for tuning in to DodgerHeads Unplugged. I will be back again live on Friday. We will talk. If anything breaks, we will definitely be on here. The rest of the gang, everybody, you know the schedule. If you don't know it, tune in to all of the social medias here. We'll keep you updated. Dodger Blue always has your back when it comes to breaking news, free agent stuff, chatter, whatever it is. If you just need a place to hang out and chill, we've got you on that too. So as always, my name is Scott Geirman. Until we can't say it anymore, go Dodgers.